obviously free agency is the season just ended, and this is probably one of the most important times for the NFL and for players in general, because free agency means contract negotiations are open. Players that could be franchise tagged may possibly, or players that could be traded. It means the start of movement, honestly, for teams. And free agency is where a lot of teams build that championship roster. And you also see some teams that have a championship roster that it just, because of free agency, it just gets blown up. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to pick 10 players. I wanted to pick 10 players that are going to hit free agency, and I wanted to give them the best fit for them to go. Now, the reason why I said I want to make this fun is because I understand that every single player could be, well, most of these players could be franchise tagged. Now, most of these players probably will be franchise tagged. I wanted to make it a little more fun, and I wanted to say they have to go to a different team. Each of these players cannot stay at the same team that they're at. So I wanted to give my best fit on the team that they could go to. For instance, let's start with Mike Evans. Now, Mike Evans is the epitome. What the Mike Evans is the epitome of consistency and high-level consistency in the NFL. This man continues to get 1,000-yard seasons year after year after year. In fact, I think he's had a 1,000-yard season every single year of his career. Now, he doesn't obviously get the love and cachet that a lot of the top-rated wide receivers get, because for the majority of his career, he was playing on a bad team. Now, he had Jameis Winston throwing the ball, getting 1,000-yard seasons, but the Bucs weren't that good. In fact, if it wasn't the 1 year or the 2 years they were good, was obviously the year that they won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, and last year they were pretty decent. I mean, they made it to the second round of the playoffs, but Mike Evans is one of those wide receivers that can drastically change the fortunes of your offense. We've seen that multiple times. I mean, we've seen that with Tyreek Hill in the Dolphins and the Chiefs. We saw that with Stephon Diggs in the Bills. Mike Evans is on that level. And again, the caveat is these players cannot stay, at least for this game, these players cannot stay on their current team. So I think the best option for Mike Evans would be the Kansas City Chiefs, which is, God, that's scary to think about. Mike Evans having Patrick Mahomes throw him the ball. And we saw last year, this year, even though that the Chiefs did ultimately win the Super Bowl, we saw that their biggest issue was obviously consistency at the wide receiver position. Well, you ain't got to worry about that with Mike Evans, especially when we talk about consistency, and he's a clear-cut number one receiver. So for Mike Evans, obviously you're going to a place where you would not only be extremely important and extremely utilized, but you are, I'm not even going to say the missing piece because they just won back-to-back Super Bowls. You would be a key piece in them continuing their greatness. So I have Mike Evans. The best fit for him would be the Chiefs. Kirk Cousins was an interesting situation because I could have went a lot of different avenues with Kirk Cousins. This is going to sound like hate. It is, and I promise you it's not hate. It's not. Kirk Cousins is the most consistently average quarterback in the league. Again, I know that sounds crazy and it sounds like hate, but I promise you it's not. And when I say it's not, is Kirk Cousins, in my opinion, is not that type of quarterback to get you over the hump. He's not that quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl, that can even take you deep in the playoffs. But he is a model of consistency. And he is, I'd say, consistently above average. He's not superstar, but he is a little bit above average. I will say that. And he is also coming off of, I think, a torn Achilles. So I don't know if he's going to be ready. I'm almost sure he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. And there is a lot of teams that need a quarterback, whether we talk about the Atlanta Falcons, possibly the Chicago Bears. There's a good places for him to go. I'm looking at a team that is, in my opinion, about to be short of a quarterback, and I'm not going to say has high expectations, but is about to go into a new regime and about to go into a new direction, and that is the Denver Broncos. I talk about how important it is to have a quarterback and your backup quarterback be eerily similar, because the last thing you want to do is have your starting quarterback get hurt, and when you bring a backup quarterback that plays absolutely nothing like you're starting, you have to change the offense completely. And I'm almost sure, I could be wrong, obviously you don't know, but all signs are pointing to the Broncos releasing Russell Wilson, meaning that I think Jarrett Stidham is going to be their quarterback. And I don't know if they're going to be able to get a quarterback in the draft, but why not bring in Kirk Cousins? Now, yes, he's obviously not going to be ready for the beginning of the season, but when he does get healthy, you give him time to learn the offense, you give him time to learn the players. You have that quarterback that he's not going to win you Super Bowls. He's obviously not going to take you far, but he is going to have that model of consistency, something that you have not seen for this franchise since Peyton Manning. And that's honestly no offense to Russell Wilson. That just is what it is. So, in my opinion, I think the perfect fit for Kirk Cousins would be the Denver Broncos. So, then you have Derrick Henry. Now, this is difficult because you have everything that. Okay, so Derrick Henry, I believe, is from Texas. Derrick Henry trains in the offseason in Texas. Derrick Henry has expressed that growing up, he was a Dallas Cowboys fan. Derrick Henry has, for majority of his career, in fact, ever since, trade talks have been around Derrick Henry, or ever since, availability may or may not have been possible for Derrick Henry, the team that you heard constantly that should go after Derrick Henry is the Dallas Cowboys. So obviously, right, I would choose the Dallas Cowboys as the best fit for Derrick Henry. No. I think the best fit for Derrick Henry is the team that you heard had a trade at the trade deadline, had a trade ready for him, but the trade was nixed by the, I think, owner of the Texans, or the Titans, I'm sorry, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens has been a historic smash mouth running team. And with Gus Edwards, you don't know if you're going to be able to keep him or not, because he's, in fact, majority of their team is free agents. I think that Derrick Henry would be a perfect option for the Baltimore Ravens playing alongside Lamar Jackson. Not only does it take some of the pressure off of Derrick Henry, which, seeing as though he was the complete offense for the Titans his entire career there, it's going to take some of the pressure off so he doesn't have to do as much, and you're playing alongside this. In my opinion, this is the best shot that he would have at a championship or Super Bowl type or best shot that he'd have making it to a Super Bowl playing alongside a 2-time MVP in the Baltimore Ravens. And quiet as it's kept, the Baltimore Ravens, seeing as though a lot of their players are free agents, they're going to need someone like Derrick Henry. So I have Derrick Henry. The best fit for him would be the Ravens. Now, again, I don't know if any of these were going to happen. This is just a game that I would like to play, and that's what we're doing. We just talked about the Cowboys, and we talked about how Derrick Henry, a lot of people think Derrick Henry would be the best fit for Dallas. And the reason why that is because the Dallas Cowboys need consistency at the running back position. Tony Pollard was looked to be that, but he has been anything but consistent. And as we've seen, Dak Prescott hasn't proven to be the player that can lead you to a Super Bowl. Even seeing as though he had his best season last year, if they don't have a solid running game, it doesn't seem like he can really take you far. So for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to go with an obvious pick. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley he had one of his best seasons last year. And I think the reason why I didn't put Saquon Barkley with the Ravens is because I think the Ravens need a more physical running back. And while Saquon Barkley can be physical, he's more of a shifty, east to west, juke you out your socks running back, while Derrick Henry is more of a physical, put my head down, go type running back. And I think that Saquon Barkley and his skill set and his ability to catch the ball in the backfield would do benefit or be very beneficial for the Cowboys. So I think Saquon Barkley would be the Cowboys. L'Jarius Sneed. He is one of the best corners in football. He is one of the main reasons why the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year or this year. And it's going to be incredibly difficult for the Chiefs to keep both him and Chris Jones. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about Chris Jones next. But Sneed, I do think they need both of them, but I just don't see it feasible for them keeping both of them. Now, again, this game is both players are going to have to go to, or all the players on this list are going to have to go to a different team. So where do I have Sneed going? I think Sneed is one of those players that can transform a defense and that can turn your team, especially if you have defensive issues, from just a good team with a hold to a possible championship caliber team. We kind of saw that we thought that with Stephon Gilmore. Now, obviously, age and injuries kind of affected that, but he was a defensive player of the year. I look at the Lions, and the biggest issue that the Lions dealt with last year, and one of the biggest reasons why they didn't obviously advance, is they really couldn't stop the pass. They struggled. Now, they just struggled with the pass, and I think Sneed would be perfect for them. You bring a championship caliber pedigree, and on top of that, he's one of the best defensive players in the league. So I think he'd be perfect with the Lions, and I think that him being on the Lions, especially with the young core that they have, that could be the momentum to get them over the top. Now, obviously, they played in the NFC Championship, but this team, and you bring Sneed, they could be a Super Bowl caliber team. So I have L'Jarius Sneed going to the Lions. Then you have Chris Jones. Now, Chris Jones, in my opinion, outside of Patrick Mahomes, was the biggest reason why the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And I think it's very tough. And I get it, but then I wouldn't get it. The Kansas City Chiefs were hesitant to pay him last year. which obviously is why he signed the 1-year deal. If you weren't trying to pay him last year and you won a Super Bowl last year and he was an extremely important part of that Super Bowl, it's hard for me to see them paying him this year. So where would Chris Jones be the best at? Now, obviously he's a free agent, so and I don't think that he's going to be able to go this way. But again, we're having fun. We're having fun this episode. And I look at a team that is in dire need of defensive leadership and a defensive player. And I'm looking at a team that's making a lot of transition right now, but still has a solid, I guess you can say, foundational pieces. And that is the LA Chargers. Obviously, due to injury, it's not really working with Joey Bosa. And due to, cap restraints or whatever, more than likely, Khalil Mack might be out of there. Now, again, I don't think that this is going to happen due to the cap restraint, but I'm just having fun. And I think that Chris Jones on the Chargers would be perfect, not only for that defense, but for Jim Harbaugh, who is the new head coach of the Chargers, and someone like Justin Herbert, because that's one thing that we saw with the Chargers. Justin Herbert could play great, but they could not sustain leads because their defense will let them down every time. Well, you bring in a Super Bowl caliber player like Chris Jones, that might change some things. So I think a perfect place for Chris Jones could be the Chargers. Josh Allen, the superstar that nobody really talks about because he won. I mean, his name is Josh Allen. And I'm talking about the defensive, the Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh Allen. But he is a superstar that nobody really talks about because he plays for the defense side of the ball, because he plays on the Jaguars, and the focus on the Jaguars is obviously Trevor Lawrence and that offense. But Josh Allen's a free agent as well. And I think if you put Josh Allen on the Texans with that young core, with DeMeco Ryans as the head coach, with C.J. Stroud, the Texans were in the divisional round last year or this year. And as you saw, they struggled mightily stopping Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens offense. Now, yes, they were one of the best offenses in football, but still, they had a tough time stopping the run. Well, you bring in Josh Allen, that changes a lot of things. And I think that can put them over the top as well. Another defensive player I have is Brian Burns, another superstar that nobody really talks about because he plays on a bad team, and that is obviously the Carolina Panthers. Now, you've heard him in a lot of tag and trades or sign and trades, but the trigger's never really pulled. But for Brian Burns, I think we talk about Atlanta and the Falcons a lot, and they have a really good team as far as the offense side of the ball. You have big names, whether we talk about Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They have good offensive pieces, and they have good defensive pieces, but their defense is not that good. Even with, was it Jarrett? It's not that good. But you bring in Brian Burns, a captain and a vet, that'd be great for him, and that'd be great for the Falcons, especially seeing as though they're probably going to get a new quarterback this offseason. So I think Brian Burns would be perfect for the Falcons. Justin Adebike. Now, if we're talking about, in the realistic way, if we're talking about one player that the Baltimore Ravens cannot afford to let go, that is Justin Madubuike. Like, at all. At all. And I don't think they will let him go. But for the sake of this game, he is a free agent. And I look at a team that is in desperate need of a defensive tackle, and that is the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals, they have a lot of issues and a lot of holes. One of them is the defensive tackle. And you're getting a guy that was amongst the league leaders in sacks. I think that Justin Madubuike would be perfect for the Cardinals. So you also got Marquise Brown. He's a free agent, but he played for the Ravens, so that connection there, even though I don't think they played together. I don't know. But Yeah, I have Justin Madubuike for the Cardinals. The last person I'm going to talk about is T. Higgins. I wanted to have a little bit of fun. And I'm going to tell you why I think the best fit for T. Higgins is the Commanders. I know everyone is they're starting to type. I get it. Last episode, or a couple of episodes ago, I talked about the importance of decisions in the new regime. When you're getting a new coach, when you're getting a new GM, and in this instance, a new owner, a lot of the decisions that you make now affect the future. And Washington is in dire need of a consistent quarterback. I mean, they have the number 2 overall pick. You have a lot of people speculating that they could possibly try to trade up to get Caleb Williams. What I'm saying is, 9 times out of 10, they're going to get a quarterback in this draft. And while, yes, you need offensive line help, you need defense depth drastically, you don't want to bring a quarterback into a situation and not have legit offensive weapons, because that's obviously going to hinder not only their growth, but the offense's growth. Now, you have Terry McLaurin, but you don't really have that number 2 receiver. Well, you bring in T. Higgins. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.